Hello again, everybody. This is attorney Mark Brunner, and thank you so much for joining me again today here on Talking Texas Law. Well, here's a question that I've been getting more and more of, as we increasingly have a more high-tech and more surveilled environment where a lot of things are being recorded. I get asked, is it legal here in Texas to record your own phone conversations with somebody else secretly, or even to record a conversation that you have that's not on the phone? Let's just say you want to turn on your cell phone to try to capture, say, a conversation that you're having with someone, let's say at Starbucks or at a restaurant or whatever. So can you here in Texas record yourself having a conversation with somebody else legally? What are the rules for that? Well, let's talk a little bit about that. In the old days, it was kind of clunky to be able to record phone calls. You'd have to have specialized equipment that was big and had to attach to a handset and then to the receiver. It usually played onto, it was a bigger device that was played on audio cassettes. If you wanted to do surveillance on someone and record a phone conversation, a face-to-face conversation, you'd have to have a dedicated, recorder. Made sure that the microphone wasn't visible and was still capturing the sound, and it maybe would play again onto an analog tape or something like that, audio tape. Very clunky. So it was hard to do these kind of recordings unless you had access to specialized equipment. But again, with the advent of the cell phone, it's easier and easier to just reach over and hit record either when you're in a face-to-face meeting with someone or you are on the phone. So how legal is that here in Texas when you are not telling the other person that they are in fact being recorded? Well, again, here in Texas, the general rule is as long as one party to that conversation knows that they are being recorded, knows of the recording, then they don't have to tell anybody else. It is perfectly legal to record that phone call or that face-to-face conversation as long as one party to the conversation knows of the recording. Nobody else has to be warned, has to be notified. That recording can be legally used. It is good court quality evidence. In court, there's no reason to keep it out because it was improperly obtained or whatever. So again, here in Texas, as long as one party to that conversation knows they're being recorded, then the recording is legal, it is proper. Two things to really walk away from that is, number one, that is the rule here in Texas. Many other states require things quite differently for that conversation to be recorded properly, to be recorded legally. They may require warnings to be given. A lot of times you may have a phone call with, you call an 800 number and they say, with a little recorded device, this call may be subject to recording or monitoring. Well, they're telling you that warning up front, letting you know that, because in certain states, that is the protocol, that unless that recording is the other party consents or is aware of the possibility of the recording, that's an illegal act. You could get into serious trouble for recording a phone conversation without notifying the other party. Not the rule in Texas. The second thing to unpack from that is, again, that one party rule, that one person in that conversation has to be aware of the recording. And where that comes into play is if someone outside the conversation, a third party, is trying to record in, listen in secretly and record, let's say a phone call between two people or a conversation among folks, and they have nothing to do with that conversation. So if a third party is trying to tap a phone or bug a restaurant booth or something like that and listen in, and they are not part of that conversation, well then they certainly can get in trouble, and that is a crime even here in Texas. Now these rules are really for civilians. The police certainly have the power, if they go to a judge and demonstrate necessity, demonstrate need and probable cause, they can go get a search warrant or a warrant to tap a phone or to bug a booth or bug a public place or a private place even to record conversations that people are having. And the police, of course, are third parties. They're not involved in that conversation. So that's legal for the police if they get a warrant. But again, for you and I, regular civilians, one party of the conversation has to know about the recording or else it would be illegal. So as always, again, jurisdictions control things differently from state to state. Many states have rules that are very similar to what we have in Texas, but many states have things that are quite different. So before you just start hitting record on every conversation you have outside of the state, it sure pays to know what the local rules are. So as always, knowledge is power. Be careful. Be aware of what the rules are before you do anything that could get you in trouble. Well, with the usual disclaimers of that this video is being offered for educational and informational purposes only. It's not to be construed as giving legal advice and does not take the place of a true sit-down consultation. With that in mind, unless you are already a contracted client of mine, please know that I'm not your lawyer. But this is Attorney Mark Brunner, and thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see y'all next time here on Talking Texas Law.